But all right, good evening, everyone, and we are back for another night of learning Tanya. Okay, so number one, you all hear me well? That's a priority, right? Gail, give me a thumbs up. All right, we're moving on to a new chapter, but we are still. This is the third chapter in the trilogy about Kavanah and the importance of Kavanah, the role of Kavanah in Judaism, and a lot of clarity is going to, develop. Sorry, I'm trying to get myself situated over here. There'll be a lot of clarity to this topic that this chapter is going to do. So, this chapter will maybe be two and a half classes, but this is the end of a pretty long road on a very big topic, which has taken us very deep. And even though it did get very deep, we spoke about the spiritual worlds and don't worry, it'll still be deep today. But we are ultimately, the author wants to really impress upon us how vital Kavanah is. What's Kavanah? I want to reiterate this because it's so important. Kavanah is not just understanding what you're doing. Kavanah is not understanding the words that you're saying. That's very elementary Kavanah. Real Kavanah means that this is a moment that you are emotionally present and emotionally invested. This is very, very much like in any relationship. I felt horrible. All right, I want to tell you an honest moment right now. As a father, not too long ago, my Menlo wanted to talk to me, and he caught me while I was looking at my phone. And I was like, I was still in the middle of something when he came over to me. And then he says, Tati, I'm going to need your focus for this one. And bam, I put down my phone. I'm like, whew, that's a sharp 8-year-old, He put me in my place just like that. Emotional presence is very, very important. I understand what I'm doing, and I am investing myself in this moment. It's very easy to do a mitzvah and lack that emotional presence. I'm doing it. I maybe even understand what I'm doing. I could be studying Torah and I could be understanding the Torah. I could be praying and I could even understand what I'm praying. But do I appreciate what this moment is about? And am I emotionally attuned to what this moment is all about? Real Kavanah is, this is a godly moment. I am connecting with God right now. And this is my moment to commune, to connect, to bond, to enter into that relationship. It's a certain passion. The Tanya always calls it love and fear, which are the two, it's the father and mother of all emotions. Awe and love, fear and love. You need to have both. That's called an emotional relationship. If you don't have that, there's no emotional relationships. Then what's Judaism? Okay, then it's Judaism, what we call without Kavanah. Now, what we've been learning a lot about is that there's this dynamic of every single mitzvah that we ever do, every piece of Torah we study, we refer to it as ascending on high. Mitzvahs need to go up. Mitzvahs need to have lift. The Torah we study needs to go up to spiritual worlds. What does that mean? That sounds like very esoteric ideas. What does it mean? A mitzvah is flying up. Where does it fly up to? Right? To Pluto? To Saturn? So it doesn't mean going up spatially. It means this is on a higher level. This mitzvah right now is shining with a new brightness. It's a mitzvah on a higher level in reality. And we're going to, this chapter I think is going to clarify a lot what that means. But if you don't have Kavanah, your mitzvah does not have that lift. The mitzvah can't shine properly. The Torah we learn can't shine properly. And that's what we're going to be learning a lot today. This chapter is titled, Why Judaism Needs Kavanah? And specifically today we're going to focus on part 1. Maybe we'll start getting into part 2, depending on how we're doing with time. But we're going to be learning about what happens when there's no Kavanah. So Kavanah is a very serious thing. Kavanah is that a Jew is very much attuned that this is God's mitzvah, God's Torah. And they bring that awe and trepidation and love to this experience. That's kavanah. Now, there's also an alternative, a Judaism with no kavanah. What's the no kavanah? The no kavanah is, we learned about it in the end of last chapter. No kavanah means just neutral. You're doing this mitzvah, or you're praying these prayers, or you're studying this Torah with no real emotional investment. Why are you doing it then? Maybe simply out of habit. I'm a Jew, I was raised a Jew, I was raised this way, or this is what I've been doing for 3 decades, whatever, I'm just doing it. And that's a very strong possibility. That's a possibility, especially if you were raised religious. If you were raised observant, Judaism is just habitual. It's by rote. So why did I wake up in the morning and go to shul to daven? I don't know. It's what I do every day. Not necessarily was it affirmative action. Not necessarily was something which I thought about and I inspired myself and I'm doing it with passion. I don't know. I put on tefillin every day, whatever, you know. It could be quite casual, quite pedestrian. That means there's no kavanah. It's happening. You're just simply doing it out of habit. There's even the habit, more specific what the Alter Rebbe calls it is, your parents or your educator educated you from your youth to fear God. Not to fear God, but that you should act as if you fear God. So you have a religious person, they could be in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, but their whole religion is that I was raised to be religious. My father taught me this is what we do, so I do it. That's not called passion. That's one possibility. And there's an even worse possibility. What I just described to you is more neutral. No plus, no minus. Although you're not investing anything positive into the mitzvah, but neither are you investing anything negative. But then there's something called bad kavanah, where you actually do have intention, but it's a bad intention. And that is where a Jew uses Judaism as a selfish tool, as a self-serving tool. And that's called bad. That's called like a misappropriation. You're misappropriating Judaism. The example that the Alter Rebbe always keeps on coming back to is, you want to be a Torah scholar. Why do you want to be a Torah scholar? Because you want honor. Or you want to feel fulfilled. Everybody wants to feel fulfillment. That's not a divine relationship. That's selfish. I'm looking for personal fulfillment. I'm looking to feel good about myself. Oh, and I discovered that I can feel good about myself by doing a mitzvah. I could feel good about myself by studying Torah. So when this Jew is studying Torah, are they studying Torah because they want to connect with God? Are they studying this Torah because this is God's word that He gave to us, and it's my privilege, my humble privilege, to be able to study Torah? Or are they coming and using our Torah to serve their own ego? It's a horrible thing. It's an abusive relationship. God gives you the Torah to get into a relationship with you, and you tell God, okay, now that I got the Torah, please leave the picture. I'm going to use it out just for me, for my own ego. It's horrible. God gave us a Torah so that you could feel good about yourself. And it could get even worse than that. The Talmud discusses people who are great Torah scholars, but they used all their knowledge of Torah to undermine Torah. They used being smart and being knowledgeable to hurt a religious faith. They became professors, they became smart people, and they all of a sudden deserved opinions, and they would use the wisdom of Torah out to actually be anti-Torah, to push an agenda that goes against God and Torah. So that's called a bad kavanah. Not just you don't have good kavanah, and it's bad enough that it's just neutral, but here you're actually investing the mitzvah with a bad kavanah. So these are all different possibilities. And so the Alter Rebbe is really trying to introduce to us that there's two sides of a mitzvah. We'll call it the body and the soul. The body of the mitzvah is getting it done. What is it? What's the mitzvah? Here's a mitzvah, which is you pick up a palm branch, you pick up an etrog, the 4 species, and you do it on this day, and you shake it, and done. The mitzvah was done. And on this night, You eat this amount of matzah, and this is what matzah is. That's the body of the mitzvah. The Alter is telling us there's something else, very critical. There's the soul of the mitzvah. That's what we call kavanah. What is the life living inside this mitzvah? You create a mitzvah and you also give it its life. What is this mitzvah expressing? What's the energy of this mitzvah? What's the energy of this Torah study? This is very, very critical. I want to talk a little bit more about this towards the end of today's class, but this was really one of the major contributions of the world of Hasidus, the revelation of Hasidus, putting an emphasis, and not just you need to do a mitzvah, but how are you doing this mitzvah? Not only should you study Torah, but how are you studying this Torah? There has to be the relationship. There has to be the passion. There has to be this kavanah. There can't be a godless Judaism. That's not good. And it's a very strong possibility. There could be a Judaism that, from your perspective, it's godless. You're doing mitzvahs, you're studying Torah, but it's godless. It's not good. Okay, dear friends, so let us learn from the top, part 1. And we're going to begin with when there is no kavanah. And I think the inspiration for all of us from what we're going to be learning today and what we've been learning these past few weeks is just how important it is to have kavanah and to realize that this is essential to Judaism. Okay, this chapter is continuing right where last chapter picked off. So let's have the opening paragraph, which will get us into the flow of things. Here we go. We concluded last chapter that when you study Torah without kavanah, it won't ascend to the spiritual worlds until you study the text again with kavanah. Okay, so what we said last week, let me just reiterate this and apologize. I apologize if I'm just repeating myself over again. Last week we said if you study with no kavanah, so not bad kavanah, but not either good kavanah, nothing. It's just neutral. You're just studying it out of habit. Mindless mitzvah. Not really mindless, but you're not in relationship mode. You're not really investing with proper kavanah. So then the mitzvah doesn't shine. The mitzvah doesn't get liftoff. The mitzvah doesn't come to life, doesn't, right? But you could fix that. The next time you come around to this mitzvah, or the next time you come around to studying this piece of Torah, and you study that Torah with kavanah, it retroactively gives lift to the Torah that you studied last time that didn't get this lift, that didn't ascend on high. So what happens in the interim? So what we learned is that there's a way to go back and retroactively give lift to that mitzvah, even though originally when the mitzvah or the Torah study was done, you didn't give it lift. But what happens until you come back to give it lift? So says the Alter Rebbe. But so long as you haven't gone back and studied this Torah text with a proper kavanah, then your study won't rise up even to the 10 sefirot that illuminate the lower worlds of Yitzir or Asiyah. This Torah study is not going to go up on high to the 10 sefirot, even to the 10 sefirot of the lower worlds. Why can't it go up on high to the 10 sefirot, to the 10 divine sefirot of even the lower worlds? Because the sefirot are divine. And God's infinite light is literally merged and enmeshed with them. But in this Torah study, the Jew does not express the divinity within. Okay, so we just got a lot of information over here. Let me just give it, let's first focus on this one point. There's a world, and then there's a 10 sefirot of that world. It's like a body and a soul, or a structure and the life force of that structure. So here's an analogy of even just ourselves. Think about the human body. We have a lot of hardware. We have a whole body. And it's a whole system. It's a structure. I have 10 fingers, thank God. 10 toes, 2 arms. I have a nose. I have a whole body. Here's my question. Is my body me? Trick question. Is my body me? Am I my body? No. Right? We all understand that. I'm not my fingers. I'm not my toenail. I'm not my nose. I'm not my eyes. I'm not even the sum total of all these body parts put together. I have a body, but then there's me. And my life flows within this body. So there's the structure of the person, and then there's the person himself or herself. So even though generally we point a person, here's this person. Yeah, but there's two sides of this person. There's the body, there's the parts of the person, the body parts, the hardware, but then you have the soul, which is really the life of the person. We have to think about God's presence within the world in the exact same way. We have a world. We have stuff, landscapes, environments, animals, life forms, laws of nature. These are all part of the structure of the universe. And then we have the life force, which is found within everything. That life force is the life force of the 10 Sefirot. The 10 Sefirot are the 10 channels of God's energy, God's presence, giving life within all of reality. So there's 4 worlds. We live we live in the lowest world. There's 2 parts of our world. There's the world as we see it. Let's call it the outer shell of the world. And then there's the life force, which is really bringing this world to life, giving it existence in every moment. That's the 10 Sefirot. It's God present within those 10 Sefirot, giving life to the world. On every single world, every world has its set of 10 Sefirot, which is the godly energy, God acting within 10 specific forms of energy, giving life, powering that world. When you do a mitzvah with kavanah, the mitzvah becomes the godly energy of that world where the mitzvah went to. And we discussed in the last chapter, there's different options. Depending on what kind of kavanah you had, your mitzvah could go up to different worlds. But it doesn't just go up to the world, it becomes the very soul of that world. It becomes the godly force within that world. Your mitzvah, your Torah study becomes the godly force of that world. But if there's no kavanah, it can't shine with that divinity. Your mitzvah won't shine, won't be activated to shine with that divine light, and therefore it doesn't become part of the 10 Sefirot, the soul, the life force of any of the spiritual worlds. Why not? It's very simple, because the 10 Sefirot are the divine energy of the world. And your mitzvah, even though it is essentially divine, but you didn't power that divinity. You didn't allow it to shine. You didn't allow it to become manifest. So what the Alter is going to tell us is the mitzvah could go up to the world, to the higher spiritual worlds, the world of Beriah, the world of Yetzirah, but it's not going to become the godly force of that world. In the words of Kabbalah, it could go up to the world, but it won't become part of the 10 Sefirot of that world. Deep stuff over here, all right? Okay. But we have this idea. If there's kavanah, it becomes part of the 10 Sefirot. It becomes part of the divine energy of that world. But if there's no kavanah, it could go up to that world, but it's not going to become part of the 10 Sefirot, part of the divine energy of that world. Let's continue reading. And as the Tikkunei Zohar states, that Torah study without fear and love for God can't rise up and stand before God. Here we have it, right? This cryptic language. If a mitzvah is done, or if Torah study is done without fear and love, it's a mitzvah, it's Torah, but it can't rise up and stand before God. And what the Alter understands that to mean is, it's not going to shine with that godly energy, and it won't become a godly force within the universe, even within a spiritual world. So what happens then? What happens to your mitzvah? What happens to your Torah study? So says the Alter Rebbe, rather, when there is no kavanah, your study ascends not to the divine Sefirot, but it goes to the chambers and repositories in those worlds which are the superficial dimension of the worlds. There you have it. A mitzvah without kavanah, it could go up to a spiritual world, but it doesn't shine with the divine energy. So it becomes part of the fabric of that world. It becomes part of the body of that world. But it doesn't shine with the divine energy. Now, dear friends, I have to admit to you, I don't fully understand all this. I don't have a full grasp of this. But that's okay, right? That's how studying works. You study, and slowly, but the more you study, the more you hope to understand it. So if this is sounding a little bit elusive to you, and it sounds a little bit over your head, don't worry. We're all in the same boat over here. All right. It's actually, I'll tell you this, a bit of, just a side point. Somebody once wrote to the Rebbe a letter that said that he got discouraged from learning Tanya. This was a yeshiva boy. He got discouraged from learning Tanya because there's so much that he can't understand. And the Rebbe said, I'm honestly a little bit surprised by your letter. He says, you're a yeshiva boy, and you should understand by now that the process of studying Torah is that one does not understand everything at first. You'll never understand everything of the text you're learning at first. You're going to give up because you don't understand everything? Well, that's how learning works. And you sit and you study and you try to understand whatever you can. And the more you study, the next time you come around to the text, you'll understand it even better. Oh, now I know more. So the Rebbe says, don't be discouraged. Sit and learn Tanya. Understand whatever you can understand. Focus on what you understand, and don't worry about the stuff you don't understand. And it's okay. You'll slowly grow and learn and learn more and more. So we have this dynamic of the mitzvah going up to the world, but not to the 10 sefirot of the world. Okay. Let's keep on going over here. And by the way, if there's anything that you feel that I'm not explaining well enough, or that you would like me to focus on a little bit more, please let me know over here, because there's a lot going on over here. Yes, Leah.
Okay, so I have this question. So on our passing, when we are before this, well, whoever we're before, and they're looking at our merits or our deeds and things like that, this type of mitzvah without kavana, that sounds like it's not put on our side of merits then.
It's a good question. I want to get to that question soon, because the Alter is going to soon address what happens when you go up to heaven. So hold that thought, and I want to remember to talk about that in a few minutes. All right, Leah? And if I don't get to, please remind me. But okay. There's a place over here where we could discuss that more properly. All right? Okay. Top of page 313. We're on the next page. It's there in the superficial dimension of the worlds that the angels are stationed. Just like in our world. We have life forms. We have animals. So too, in the spiritual world, in the environment of the spiritual world, you have the angels. And those angels are the products of mitzvahs. The Alter continues, as stated by Rabbi Chaim Vital in chapter 2 of Sha'ar Nevuah. That's what he says, that from Torah studied without kavanah, angels are created in the world of Yetzirah. And from mitzvahs observed without kavanah, angels are created in the lower world of Asiyah. So if it's done without kavanah, the mitzvah goes up. It even creates an angel, but it creates an angel, no more. It adds to the environment of the worlds, but it doesn't add to the divine energy of the world. Let's read the parentheses. The mitzvahs involving action, when devoid of kavanah, have little light and energy of their own, so they cannot rise to Yetzirah. This is very, very interesting. So when you do a mitzvah, you automatically create an angel. Every time you study Torah and you do a mitzvah, you create an angel. Even if you didn't have kavanah. So you add to the environment, to the life form, to the life forms of the spiritual worlds, but it doesn't become part of the divine soul, the divine energy within that world. The Alter continues, and all the angels consist of both matter and form. The physical aspect of the mitzvah creates the matter, and the spiritual creates the form. Angels have their own type of body and soul. This is a very interesting discussion. I don't want to get too much into this. What does an angel look like? In Judaism, it says angels have bodies too. So why don't we see them? So it says like this. We have bodies, and our bodies are primarily, so there are 4 fundamental elements of the world. Fire, air, water, and earth. You ever heard of that? It comes up, right? We had it in Tanya. 4 fundamental. Everything in reality is made up of those 4 elements: fire, air, water, earth. The human body is made up of all 4, but primarily we are comprised of earth and water. Those are the 2 strongest elements in the human body. Angels are created, their bodies are primarily fire and air, which is why we don't really see angels, right? So our bodies are made up of very, very physical stuff. Their bodies are made up of much more spiritual matter. But angels also have bodies and souls. And our mitzvahs, and every time we study Torah, an angel is formed with the energy of that mitzvah or that Torah study. The physical of the mitzvah, which means the words that are coming out of us, that's physical, or the action, that creates the body. And then the spirituality creates the soul of that angel. So every single angel could have a healthy body, have a healthier life, a stronger life, all depending on the mitzvah that created this angel. So the point is over here that what the author is saying is, your mitzvah could have spirituality. What's the spirituality? You understand what you're praying. You understand the Torah you're learning. But it's still lacking kavanah. It's still lacking the ultimate spiritual investment, the godly investment, the intentionality of the person that this is about my relationship with God. So it could go up. This is what the author is describing to us. What happens to a mitzvah? What happens to Torah study if there's no kavanah? It could go up. It creates an angel. It becomes part of the environment of a spiritual world. But it doesn't go to the 10 Sefirot. Let's continue reading over here, the next paragraph. So, without proper kavanah, the Torah study and mitzvahs can ascend, but they don't ascend to the 10 Sefirot of the worlds. Okay, this is what we have about Torah study that's done without kavanah, but it could go up, but at least there's no negativity there. Now we're going to discuss what happens when there's Torah study, but there's something negative there. That's not good. Okay, that makes it harder. Okay, so let's read. But Torah, which is studied with a completely negative kavanah, which means not only you have no good kavanah, but you actually injected into this mitzvah or into this Torah study a bad kavanah, such as to be celebrated as a scholar, etc. You see that? That's called bad kavanah. You're studying Torah and you're not doing it for God. You're doing it for your own ego. Horrible. Horrible. Says the Alter Rebbe, such Torah simply does not ascend heavenward at all, even to the chambers and repositories of the sacred angels. It doesn't go up at all, 0 lift. Rather, that Torah remains below in this physical world, which is the repository of Kalipot. Let's think about it. You're doing a mitzvah, or you're studying Torah. The Torah is holy and godly. The mitzvah is holy and godly. But when you brought this mitzvah into being, you locked it into a shell of your own ego. Not only this mitzvah is lacking godly expression, but it's actually expressing your own ego. This is something that was brought into the world out of your own selfishness. You want to become a scholar and you bring Torah energy into the world because you want to do it for your own ego? It's horrible. Because of that, there's this mitzvah, which is essentially holy, is trapped. It's trapped being a force that is surrounded by klipa. You have to think about that. It's like, it's not klipa. The Torah is holy, but it's now locked into this shell of klipa because it's all about your ego. So it's stuck in this world, and such a mitzvah doesn't go up. Okay, now we have a note. Let's read the note. By the way, this chapter of Tanya has the world record of notes. There's going to be 4 notes in this chapter, and some of them are quite long. So this is the first note, which is, okay, this is going to be the easier one to learn in this chapter. Says the Alter Rebbe, we learned that even if Torah is studied with no intent, but it can still rise to the superficial dimensions of the spiritual worlds. Here are some supporting sources. So Alter is going to give us sources, supports that mitzvahs without kavanah, all Torah and all mitzvahs by default, even without kavanah, will go up as long as there's no bad kavanah. But it will go up. It won't go up to become part of the 10 Sefirot, but it will go up. Okay, where do we see this? A few sources. As stated in Zohar, section 3, book 3, page 31b, and see also page 121b. Quote, that word which a person speaks, meaning a word of Torah, rises up and pierces the heavens, and it arouses whatever it arouses, depending on what was said. If it was good, it will arouse good, and if bad, then bad. Look there in the Zohar. And in the Zohar, page 105a, when a person utters a word of Torah, a voice is formed which rises. So you see what's happening over here? A person says Torah, a voice is formed, and the Torah then goes up. And final source, and on page 168b, quote, the voice of Torah and prayer ascend upwards and pierce the heavens, etc. So we have here this idea that even if there's no kavanah, the mitzvah will go up, but it won't be able to go up to become part of the 10 Sefirot. Okay, that's the note. But back to the topic at hand over here, what the author is telling us over here. But if there's a bad kavanah, that's it. This mitzvah simply cannot ascend to any spiritual level. It is an expression of your own animal soul's klipa, and therefore this mitzvah or this Torah study is stuck, at least for now, in the world of your animal soul, in the world of klipa. Now, in last chapter, we learned that if a person does teshuvah, he redeems those mitzvahs and those Torah that stuck within klipa. But until you do teshuvah, this is what happens. It gets stuck in the world of klipa. And let's continue learning back in the text on page 314. This is what the Zohar states, commenting on the verse, quote, what gain is there for man in all his toil that he toils under the sun? This is a verse from Ecclesiastes, where King Solomon gives us a good hit over the head. And King Solomon speaks to us about priorities in life. And he discusses about how foolish and how fleeting the pleasures of life are, the vanities of life, and how not worth it is to invest your eggs there, right? Why are you putting your eggs in that basket? And what he says is, what gain is there for man in all of his toil that he toils under the sun? Whatever you're going to do under the sun, which means whatever you can do a part of physical life, what gain do you ultimately have from it? Right? We famously know that people don't bring their wealth, don't bring their anything physical doesn't survive. It doesn't go with you to the next world. So King Solomon is writing, what are people running around and putting in so much energy, and they prioritize toiling for things under the sun? What gain is there ultimately? It's a short-term investment. It sounds good in the moment, but in the long term, this is a bad investment. This is what King Solomon says. But the Zohar says something striking. The Zohar comments on this and says, you know what the toil done under the sun means? It even includes this. Let's read. Toil without gain includes even toiling in Torah. If he does it for the sake of bringing honor to himself, then it will remain under the sun and it will not ascend heavenward. If you study Torah and you don't do it for a good purpose, you do it for a bad purpose, like your own honor. You want people to honor you. You want to feel good about yourself. You're looking for fulfillment. You're looking for fulfillment. You're going to use God's Torah as a source for your fulfillment? Go get a therapist. God's Torah is here to give you fulfillment. God's Torah is here to give you a holy relationship with God. Okay, it also gives you fulfillment. But don't treat Torah as a tool for your fulfillment. The Zohar says, if you study Torah all for yourself, it won't be able to go with you to the next world, which is pretty shocking. And later, here we get to your thing. That's it. It goes nowhere. It's stuck under the sun. You go above the sun. That's the framing we have over here. You go to heaven. But these Torah and mitzvahs, these Torah and mitzvahs are stuck in a world of klipa. That's the energy you've invested into this mitzvah. That's the environment. And one more paragraph, says the Alter Rebbe, and this explains the saying of our sages: "Happy is he who comes here to heaven with his learning in hand," meaning that his Torah came up with him heavenward and did not remain down in this world. Okay, let me give you the background to this saying from the Talmud. Very interesting episode over here. There's a sage in the Talmud. Maybe it was Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Maybe. It could be I'm getting the name wrong. There's a good sage, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. I think that was the name in the Talmud. His son passed away at a very young age. His son's soul left the body, and miraculously, the son was revived. The son came back to life. Right, today we call those near-death experience. Okay, this was a full-on death experience. The son died, and came back to earth. So the father asked the son, I think it was a teenage son, he said, "What did you see there? You went to the world of truth. What did you see there?" And the son said two things. He says, number one, I saw an upside-down world. It was topsy-turvy. Anybody who in this world is on top, they're on bottom. And whoever here in this world, they're on bottom, they are on top. People high here are low there, low here, high there. And then he said something else. He says in heaven, when souls arrive, they say like this. They say, lucky is the man, happy is the man who comes here with his learning in their hand. That's what they say in heaven. You come up to heaven, you got learning in your hand. Oh, lucky you. Lucky you. Now, literally, if you read the Talmud, you look at the commentaries that explain to the Talmud simply, it simply means that you don't want to go to heaven and you didn't learn anything during your lifetime. That's not good. You know why? Because what they do in heaven, they learn a lot. So you don't want to go to heaven where literally the number one activity is learning and you got no learning with you. You won't fit in or it'll be uncomfortable. Okay. But the Alter Rebbe says, no, there's something so much deeper there. There's a possibility that you'll learn Torah in this world and it won't go up with you. Just like you have to leave your money behind, you'll have to leave your Torah behind. Because it wasn't studied. It was studied with a bad intention. It was studied with a selfish intention. And it's going to stay down below. And you won't be able to bring the energy, the beauty of that Torah with you. Not just the knowledge, but the godly energy. You won't be able to bring that with you up to heaven. This is why Kavanah is so important. Torah and mitzvahs need to be taken very good care of. And it is possible to do a mitzvah. It is possible to study Torah. And it's being done with a bad intention. It's being done with some level of selfishness. It's being done with some ill intent. Even in the slightest way, a subtle ill intent. And that actually corrupts the power of that Torah, the power of that mitzvah. And it doesn't allow that Torah and mitzvah to shine. And here we see the importance that as much as the Torah itself is divine, and as much as the mitzvah is divine, it is so critical that we allow the divinity within the Torah, within the mitzvah, to be as expressive as possible. And there's the possibility that a person will learn Torah, but it will be a corrupted Torah. It won't be a healthy Torah. It's very powerful. The Talmud discusses this. They say the Talmud says it's a very, very, very scary and perplexing line. The Talmud says the Torah is powerful, potent. This is potent stuff. If you merit, it will be a potion of life. If you don't merit, it will be a potion of death. How could that be that God's Torah is a potion of death? Torah is powerful stuff. You got to handle it properly. You got to have the right kavanah. And if you have the wrong kavanah, you could deactivate the Torah and you don't allow the Torah to be fully expressive. And it could even, it could even be that you hijack the Torah and use it in a bad way. There's a lot of food for thought over here. But the importance that it's not just enough that we're doing a mitzvah or studying Torah, but that we are emotionally present, and just how important that is to our Judaism. This is something that we're really, really seeing over here. I'll just say, just one take. We see over here that just because something is Torah, you have to be careful with it. I'm careful with this on a personal level. If somebody wrote a book on Torah thought, on Torah ideas, I always want to know who wrote it. Who wrote it? I don't care so much that the person is well versed in Judaic studies. I don't care. Is this somebody that studied this Torah with kavanah? Is this somebody who is approaching this with the right sensitivity? And are they teaching it with the right sensitivity? Torah is not just about a body. It's not just about a body of information. It's about a soul. Is the divinity there? Sometimes it can be somebody who teaches Torah. They teach Torah. But their whole Torah is a Torah where they didn't activate the godliness of it. They are not coming with fear of heaven. And you don't want such Torah. That's unhealthy Torah. I once heard the story that in the very early years when Chabad came to America in the 1940s, so the Chabad community was decimated in Ukraine during the Holocaust. Then so many Chabad families got stuck in the Soviet Union. When Chabad came to America, it was a very small community, and they were looking for somebody to teach in the yeshiva boys. And the only person they could find for the job was a very bright Jew, but he wasn't a Hasidic Jew. He wasn't Chabad. He was Orthodox, but not Hasidic. But he was a very, very big Torah scholar. And one time the Rebbe overheard him giving a class to the yeshiva boys, and he spoke disparagingly about the opinions of Rashi and Tosafos. And he downplayed, said, they don't know what they're talking about, or something like that. He spoke about it with a lack of reverence. And the Rebbe right away said, give this guy his severance pay, he's out of here. His last day on the job. He could give over information of Torah, but there's the soul of Torah. That's critical. If the soul is missing, that's one level of a problem. But if you put a bad soul, bad kavanah, oh man, that's horrible. You don't want to deal with such Torah. It could be Torah, but without kavanah, it's no good. So, dear friends, this is the message over here. I'll share with you one last thought, which just last night, there's a couple from out of state, from all the way out west. They have a Chabad in a very remote Jewish community, and they're visiting family here. So we, and I was in yeshiva with him. So he's in town. I invited him over for a barbecue last night, and his wife told me that she used the Tanya project that I'm working on, the Chabad Tanya project. She said that they had a visitor to their, to their far off little city. A Orthodox Jewish woman came to their city for treatment. She had some condition, a specialty condition. She had to go to a specialty doctor. This is the best hospital. So for a few weeks or for a few months, she's stuck in the middle of this, there's no Jewish community there. No infrastructure for kosher. So this Orthodox Jewish woman got in touch with the shluchim, and so the Chabad shlucha, the Rebbitzin there, she tells me that she started learning Tanya once a week with this is a Orthodox Jewish woman. So she keeps Shabbos, she keeps kosher, she walks the walk, talks the talk, dressed, everything. She's religious. And this woman, this shlucha told me there's something very strange. She said, it's amazing. This is what she said. She said, this woman she's religious, but she's literally inside not from at all. She says, it's amazing. Here's a woman. She has a family. She keeps Shabbos. She keeps kosher. Everything. Runs a Jewish family. Totally. But she says, inside, emotionally, mentally, she is totally disconnected from God, from Judaism. She doesn't have any feelings for it. She doesn't understand anything. She doesn't feel for it, nothing. And she said Tanya was like so groundbreaking for this Orthodox Jewish woman because for the first time it gave her the opportunity to explore her own religion. Mind you, there's a religious woman, but from a place where it's not just the outer layer, do this, learn this, say this, but it's the feeling of the presence that my mind can connect to my Judaism. My mind can connect to my God. My heart can connect to my God. My heart could accept and embrace my Judaism, my God. This is what the author was telling us over here. Kavana is critical. Kavana is what allows our soul, our spirituality, our godliness to enter into the mitzvah, to invest the mitzvah with the divinity, empower the divinity which is there in the mitzvah. And that is a very critical message we're learning about over here. So dear friends, we're going to stop over here. Next we're going to start part 2 of the chapter. It's going to get deep. And let's leave it at that. L'chaim, l'chaim. Wonderful seeing all of you tonight.
Rabbi,
And let's talk. Any thoughts, any questions? Go for it, Joel.
Rabbi, I sent a note and I asked and said, are human beings the only ones that can cause mitzvahs? The other worlds are angels and souls, but I didn't think they could do mitzvahs.
Right.
We're
Yeah, the only one who could do a
ones.
mitzvah is a Jewish soul in a body. Otherwise, the mechanisms are not there to do a mitzvah. Angels can't do it.
So
Souls
we
of
are the
heaven can't
ones
do it.
that are,
Non-Jews can't do it.
we are the ones that are filling the other worlds with our
Right.
mitzvahs.
Exactly. We
That
fill
makes
all
them
of reality
soul,
with the godliness,
soul,
and nobody
angel.
else could do it. Right.
Right, no one else.
Only the Jewish soul in the body could actually cause that change. Correct.
Okay.
Yes,
So,
Marshall. Or Leah, go ahead. Yeah.
so should we avoid doing mitzvahs if we can't do it the way, it would be healthy?
That's a very good question. In the end of last chapter, the Alter already answered that question. The end of chapter 39, the Alter says, no, always do the mitzvah, because at the end of the day, the action is most important. And the Alter told us that ultimately every single Jew is going to do tshuva. And when that Jew does tshuva, all their Torah and mitzvahs ascend with them. And the Alter says, either in this lifetime or in another lifetime. So do the mitzvah, even if it's not with the right intent, and one day it will be good.
But the idea you're talking about, like the bad intentions, I mean, I don't have bad intentions. But this chapter's making me very concerned right now.
So I'll tell you, the Alter is not here to make you concerned. The Alter is trying to inspire us for greatness. And there's a very big difference between that. On the one hand, showing somebody what greatness looks like can make somebody feel very bad. Oh my, that's greatness, and I'm such a lowlife. The other one is there's greatness. Strive for that. Go there. Start the trek. Start the climb. The Alter is not trying to guilt us over here. The Alter is trying to show to us what ideal Judaism looks like. And yeah, it's definitely going to be very eye-opening. It's going to be like, wow, I thought everything was okay and dandy, and now I see actually that I have a lot of work to do. Okay, that's okay. Now we know that we need to, but the Alter already told us last chapter, never deny yourself a mitzvah just because you're not in the right kavanah frame of mind. Because if you don't do it, then there's nothing to work with. But if you do it, even if you did it the wrong way, we could always retroactively deal with that. So that's not a problem.
And I was thinking, and I'll stop after this, is that if you attach yourself with somebody who does have good kavana, hopefully that rubs off on you as well. So you were saying
100%. 100%. Yes, absolutely. Good, a good environment is extremely important for this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Marshall.
Thank you.
This wasn't my question, but from the last question, does the Shuva have to be specific to the mitzvah that you did not have kavana, or you just kind of get credit for doing a similar mitzvah or another mitzvah? Or is it a one-on-one relationship?
It's not credit. It's that when you pull yourself out of the environment of your own klipa, all of your holiness comes up with you. You free all of your baggage. So all of your mitzvahs, all of your Torah study that was stuck with you in klipa is now that's what tshuva is. Tshuva is you're unshackling yourself, and it's not just yourself. It's your life that got stuck in the klipa.
So
The
after
truth is
50
you,
years of bad kavana, if you change your life, you can recover that.
100%.
And the question I had originally is in Torah and Tanakh, there are references to angels, and we hear stories about angels. Is there a Wikipedia source in Jewish scripture on what is an angel, how does it work, what's the system, or are there just little scraps we pick up?
That's a good question. Is there an authoritative book that gives you the entire rundown? Maybe there's some more contemporary collections that give you a full rundown, but it's mainly in Kabbalistic sources, and now's not the time to discuss it. But generally speaking, it's not much of a topic of interest, which means we don't see it. We don't see angels as a force to be reckoned with, and for that reason, even though incidentally we discuss angels, but it's not like this a topic of focus in Judaism. Not because we're trying to not focus on it, just because there's no reason to focus on it.
But everything has a purpose, so there must be some purpose for there to be angels
Well,
and
of
a
course, there's
purpose
a
for us.
purpose. Of course, there's a purpose. So whenever there's a purpose to learn about angels, then angels are discussed. But it's not like here, you got to know about angels, so here's the book you got to know about angels. Right? Halacha is very important. Here's what you got to learn to know how a Jew lives his life.
Aren't angels supposed to be the messenger of God? God directs an angel
That's right. That's
on
right.
what they should do or not do, or
Right, but angels don't have their own agency. Angels don't have their own volition. So the same way we don't, so they don't have any independent power. The same way gravity doesn't have its own power. So you can learn about gravity, but like ultimately, in a moral and the moral framework, and the framework of learning about morality and how to be a spiritual Jew, angels are just not so relevant for that. So of course, the topic of angels comes up a lot, but it's not like this is a major plot point in Jewish spiritual living.
I really like what we learned today. It just like it's a good reminder that in everything we do to always look to form a closer relation with Hashem.
Oh, exactly. That's exactly it. Don't let your Judaism be devoid of God. Just take even for a few moments before you study Torah and say, this is an awesome moment. God gave me his Torah. I get to bond with God. And you should be filled with this awe-inspiring feeling, the trepidation. This is an unbelievable moment. I'm not just learning, it's not just interesting and stimulating and okay, I'll learn some fun facts. This is me coming into communing with God and entering into relationship with God. I'm doing a mitzvah. This is next level. Even just to try to think about it, try to feel it at least a little bit. And the more you learn and the more that we actually cultivate the bonds we have with God, which is what chapter 41 is going to start teaching us to do, the more that we could bring that into our daily Judaism. Beautiful. Very well said.